Conventional business wisdom says to play it safe and stick to the numbers. But as is well known, the most powerful strategies for growing small businesses are sometimes the one that go completely against the grain. Today's guest shares those bold bets, the overlooked insights and counterintuitive lessons that have helped businesses punch above their weight. She's currently the UK Managing Director at Xero. Previously, she was the Director of Operations for the UK and EMEA, and then the UK Country Manager. She has a background in strategy and operations consulting, strategic planning, and corporate finance. Kate Hayward, thank you for joining me on Beyond Insights today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. That was a big introduction.
Some introduction, wasn't it? I wanted to get all the listeners for today excited. So let's get into it. I think as a typical introduction, we usually ask our guests, what's something that's not in your traditional bio, but which tells us a lot about you as a person?
So the one that always comes to mind that people don't know, and it goes back to early younger years, which I think often puts you on a path for the rest of your life. I was a gymnast for over 10 years. And so that has formed a lot of who I am, a lot of how I think about how I work. Because gymnastics is a very hard sport. It takes lots of dedication, lots of training, lots of constant improvements, constant tinkering, constant thinking. So that's something that seems to show up throughout my life and took me a while to work out where it came from, and it's definitely there.
Amazing. That's really, really interesting. And I guess a little bit of background. Obviously, I've given a bit of an introduction to you as a professional, but could you just tell the people a bit of a background from your perspective and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I think similar to the first question, one thing that people are often surprised by, I did a biology degree. So I was a scientist, and that's where I started, and realized I didn't want to be in a lab doing experiments for the rest of my life. And so I quickly realized during university that I probably wanted to do something different, and did an internship with Ernst & Young. And that's where they say the rest is history. So I became an accountant, but by chance, by luck, I didn't have to do audit, and I actually did the corporate finance rotation scheme at Ernst & Young. So was exposed to corporate finance, financial due diligence, restructuring, and lots of other more operational pieces of the business. And from there, I essentially ended up in strategy and operations. And that's where the path had led me into Xero as well, thinking about strategy and operations for tech businesses.
Amazing. And so you think that background in the sort of sciences has informed at all the decisions, the way you behave, the way you think about things today?
Yeah, 100%. People think that's quite different, but actually it's quite similar. So if you think about a science experiment, you have a hypothesis, you have a method to test it, you get the results, and it either disproves, it never proves a hypothesis, it's very hard to do, but you test and learn, and then you execute more. So that ability to take the information you've got, make a decision and go is very similar to how you're taught or trained in a science field. And always to be lots of different inputs, putting them together going forward. So it's actually very similar to business.
Amazing. Okay, so a bit of background, and then that's obviously informed where you are today. Now, from a leadership and growth perspective, we're going to start off with a classic one, which is, what's one piece of business advice that you hear all the time, but we're going to flip it, that you actually disagree with?
Oh, so there's one that's slightly nuanced, I'd say. I don't disagree. Often people say fail fast. I don't think we should fail fast. I think we should learn fast. So one thing is you often have to make decisions, and you can, at a point in time, you have the information you have, you've done your best to get all the information you've got, you have to make a decision. What's worse, not making a decision and continuing to spin. It's one of my biggest frustrations. So, but with that, you start going and you'll get more information. It may mean that it means you're learning quickly and you pivot quickly. It doesn't mean you're failing, you're just appending the information you've got. So I don't think we should focus on fail fast. we should learn fast and pivot and continue and double down or stop. So that's the slight nuance of that term, that I don't like failing fast, I like learning fast.
Amazing. That's a great answer. And then can you think of a time when, doing the unpopular thing, so to speak, actually paid off?
Oh, there's a few. I'm gonna give it a specific example, but I'll give you the gist of it.
Okay.
There's often history in a business or history in something you've done, and so you did it exactly to my first point. You made a decision and you did something. So maybe that is you went out to market with a specific product at a specific price, or you executed something with a specific team. And sometimes if that has been going on for a long time, so say 5 years, but it might not be suited for what you need to do today. So you need to change it. It's going to be hard for your team, hard for your customers, hard operationally, because everything's been wired to do it, especially if you've done it quickly. That often happens when you go through startup types of businesses, that you're often thinking, okay, it was right to get it done, but maybe the processes, maybe the operations have kind of molded around it, but they haven't been thought through. At some point, you kind of need to cut that. And that is it's often unpopular because that initial energy and change is really hard. But it's required because the benefit in the longer term, so the payback period of that does make sense. But this initial period is really, really hard. And I think that's always something, there's examples like that I've got numerous times where you have to make that call. And everyone's like, why? What are you doing? Like, no, it's too hard. But you have to see the end. And I think a big part of it is telling that story about what the end would look like. So yeah, that's what I think, is often unpopular when you make those kind of decisions.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I can imagine for most people listening that they can agree change is sometimes uncomfortable. So I like what you've mentioned there about sort of speaking about the end picture, just to give people an idea as to, why are we making these decisions?
Right.
Why are we doing what we're doing? No, absolutely. That's a really good answer as well. So lots of small business owners, SME leaders focus heavily on, short-term success. You've mentioned it a bit there, but what's another counterintuitive approach you've seen to driving long-term success?
The one that always comes up, I'm quite passionate about, especially for small businesses, is pricing. So often small businesses are very focused on what's the next product I'm going to sell, what's the next service I'm going to deliver. I need the volume. I need to get out to more customers. I need to prove that actually I've got a worthwhile product or service. But they don't always step up and look out of actually what is the value of what they're doing to the market. And so they're focused on short-term growth of volume and not actually the longer term view of the volume and the pricing balance. That actually maybe fewer customers at a higher price is better than multiple customers at a lower price, because the operational burden, the ability to serve those customers often goes up. So I think that's the bit that whenever I talk to small businesses, are you thinking about how you're getting to that longer term step, that growth? Is it the right balance between the number of customers and the pricing of your customers? Are you over servicing those customers because actually the effort you're pulling in, it's just not sustainable? Small businesses don't have the luxury like bigger businesses of a finance team and a legal team and a marketing team. Often they're doing all of those jobs together. So they have to be really, really focused on where their effort is going. So that's one thing that I think, making sure pricing is looked at for long-term success as well as short-term growth.
Love that. And then sort of from a tech and innovation perspective, in your experience, where do most small businesses go wrong with tech adoption?
So tech adoption isn't just the technology. Technology is often an enabler, or as I like to say to small businesses, it's often the instrument that you need to play, but you're the one making the music. You're the musician. You're making the beautiful sounds or music I'm not very musical, but it resonates. And so I think the problem that I often see is small businesses go to technology to solve a problem that they think they have, but first and foremost, they might not really understand the root cause of the problem. What are you actually trying to solve with this technology? Do you understand the process problem? Do you understand the people problem before you put technology over the top? So I think that's the first one that I always say, it's the process, it's the people, as well as the platforms and the technology. But the other one that I find that small businesses, they often have multiple technologies. And do you know where the biggest inefficiency is lost? Is wrapping them together. How do they integrate? How do they work through? Again, that process mapping really helps this. But having 6-7 different bits of technology that don't talk to each other, the loss of efficiency and inaccuracy that goes between pulling data between them. So I think the connective suite of products is actually one thing that I think is something we should all focus on more.
Nice. And I guess staying on this trend, is there a technology trend that's overrated and then one that's underrated for small businesses?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's overrated. I think the obvious one to pick up here is AI. AI is going to be a big enabler. But what's overrated is how small businesses can use it. I think we often, especially in the UK, adoption of AI into small businesses will be something that's really, really important. Have we got the education? Have we got the use cases? Without all of the supplementary elements, the technology could just be left there to be redundant. So that's something I'm really, really passionate about, making sure that we're enabling small businesses to use the technology trends, because AI will continue to deliver great benefits at speed. One that is underrated. Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I could say Xero and Sift, but that would be I won't say Xero and Sift.
Massively underrated though.
Massively underrated for sure. I go back to my earlier point. I think the underrated bit is how they're tied together. I just think that is a huge, because it's not a piece of software, people don't talk about it. But so I'm going to say the same answer.
No, that is a good answer. I think hopefully there's some key takeaways which can be sort of garnered from that. And then from your perspective, what's something you believe about the future of accounting or small business tech, since we're on the topic, that others might think is a bit out there?
A bit out there. I don't know if it is a bit out there. I do think AI is going to have a huge impact on the industry. Why and what? At the end of the day, the jobs that need to be done will continue. So we'll still have to look at our books. We'll still have to manage cash flow. We'll still have to pay our taxes. We'll still have to pay people. We'll still want to forecast, can I afford to buy a new tractor as a farmer, or can I move into a new office with a new team? So all the jobs that we're going to have to do will stay. But from an AI perspective, imagine a world where the manual repetitive tasks aren't there anymore. So whether that's the small business or their advisor, their accountant or bookkeeper, can really focus on having much more personal conversations that are curated, not just to the industry, but that region. I think that ability to be a lot more targeted in talking about that specific business. We all know small businesses are so varied and so diverse. It's the beauty of them, but also what makes it challenging to support them. I think that will change. So I'm really, really excited that will actually really enable small businesses. There's a study that we did recently at Xero that said for a small business, they don't start doing their small business work. So why they became a small business. So whether it's making cookies or, doing their farm work until like a Wednesday evening, because the Monday to Wednesday is all the admin and all the other jobs that they have to do. Imagine if that was shortened. Like, that's really exciting for me.
Yeah, love that. Now, as a quick aside, we're just going to hear from Sift.
This podcast is brought to you by Sift Analytics. Sift Analytics is an interactive and collaborative financial reporting tool that helps you generate beautiful reports, forecasts, and consolidations in just a few clicks. Sift helps you increase revenue, reduce costs, save time, and look professional. It is also enhanced by AI-powered insights that help you go from data to decisions in no time. Want to find out more? Visit our website at siftanalytics.com to start a 14-day free trial today.
So getting into customers and culture now, Kate, what's the strangest or most surprising thing you've seen a business do to delight their customers?
Two pop to mind. I'm going to go with one. So it's a personal one. My granddad, who sadly passed away a few years ago, but he had an essential tremor. So it means his hand shook. But every day he would go into his favorite cafe. It's not it's a caf for those of you that are British, like an old school proper British caf where you get a fry up. But he always had his cup of tea. Sometimes he'd have his fry up or his piece of toast. But holding a cup of tea is actually really, really hard. It would spill. And people would only fill it half up because otherwise it would overflow.
Yeah.
So the customer delight for him was one day he rocked up and they'd managed to source a pint teacup. And so he could have a full cup of tea in this huge teacup. So he got his full cup of tea every day, but it didn't spill. And amazing. So it was John Holt was his name. It was John Holt's teacup. It had a special place. And that for me is he was a true customer through and through. He'd been going there for years. And as his essential tremor got worse, they delighted him with this cup. And I think that's true personalization of understanding and feeling your customer and delivering something for him.
It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
How you like that? And then I guess on the same sort of trend, slightly differently though, are there any unconventional ways that you think businesses, any type of businesses, can build stronger teams or stronger cultures?
So I love the phrase radical candor. I think I'm a big believer that you don't have to, being nice isn't the same as being a good leader, a good manager, or just creating really good team culture of knowing where you are. I think I hear from so many people of like, am I doing a good job? I just don't know. And that spin of people's minds of not knowing where they stand, not knowing if it's good, not knowing what's going on. The ability to have really transparent, frank, honest conversations and feedback provides so much security, but also really tangible impact to the individual, but also to the business, because you all know where you stand. You're all fighting for the same thing. You're all driving in the same direction. So I'm quite big on tough on problems, nice on people. We can have a really, really heated debate about what we should be doing. And it's because we're so passionate, but we can walk out of the room and we can go for a coffee, have a glass of wine, and actually on a personal level, it's completely different.
Absolutely. I really like that. Nice on people, tough on problems. That's a great line, that. And then I guess with another line, the customer is always right. Do you believe that that's valid advice?
No. But what do I mean by no? The customer's opinion is always valid and you should always listen. So having an empathy for the customer of what their pain point is, what they're looking for from a solution. But I think the bit that they're not always right in, they understand their problem and we need to understand their problem, but how you solve for it, they might not have come up with the right way, the best way for you, for them. So I think it's the customer is always valid, but the solution to solve their problem, they may not always be right.
Nice. That's a great answer. And then as we sort of close out today's podcast, I'd like to sort of navigate it back to you and your personal perspective. So, Kate, has there been a moment in your career where, you took a path that didn't make sense to lots of other people at the time?
Many. Going from a biology degree to an accounting qualification was one that everyone was like, what are you doing? I think my biggest thing, I've done many strange leaps or jumps. So I lived in Australia for a little bit.
Nice.
And I actually went to the Philippines and worked there for a year, and I quit my job and I did some consulting. And then I came back to the UK and thought, maybe I'll go back into a finance role because I'm an accountant and try the finance team, or maybe I'll do this. I think I've often surprised people. The one thing as I reflect on it that I've always done is follow good people. Am I surrounded by people that I trust, that I respect, that I'm learning from? Am I trying to solve a problem that I genuinely believe in and I want to solve for? And the career and the choices have kind of come second to both of those. If those hold true, it's kind of led me sideways, upwards, downwards into all sorts of different careers and paths. So I think my parents, who are from a very different background, have no idea what I'm doing. And they're like, are you sure you should be changing jobs again, from an era where they stuck in one job for like years? So yeah, many surprises.
And lots of lived experience to bring along with you, I'm sure.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that's what I like to learn. It goes back to that gymnastics. I was constantly always wanting more, learning more, what's next. And I think that has taken to work, that I'm always looking for a learning opportunity.
Amazing. And then what's a non-business book or experience that's deeply influenced the way that you lead?
So interestingly, as a gymnast, you spend a lot of time at the gym, but it becomes your life. And so I coached as well. So I coached very small people, but I also coached gymnasts of special needs. So we had a local special needs school that came in. And I think that more than ever told me, and I have this whenever I'm managing or leading, if someone doesn't understand what you're trying to do, if they don't understand or they haven't grasped what you're asking, it's on you. You haven't communicated it enough. You haven't been clear enough. It's never on them. And I think if you take that on, it makes you think about how to do things in multiple different ways, because everyone is so different. And as a leader and as a manager, I think that's always something that your style has to flex as much as everyone else's style has to flex. And when you're teaching a special needs child, that genuinely is like, you can't take how you teach someone in a normal classroom to that. It just is so different that you learn to flex, you learn to be patient, you learn a lot about yourself. So I think that I always go back to those memories of how you had to change and how you had to flex.
Nice. And then what's something you used to believe about business that you've since completely changed your mind on?
So strategy was a big part of my life. And going back again to the gymnastics, I'm a perfectionist, and it's something I've learned not to be, because perfection in business is not good. It's a failure. Progress is better than perfection, and it's a big thing that I'm now hot on. But that's similar with strategy, that there's a point in time where there's lots of information and you're pulling it all together and you have a direction, but the progress actually comes from execution. You have to have a good enough plan to start executing and pivoting and learning. But the biggest thing I've learned, those two have to be connected. If they're completely separate, you just never get the outcome. So it's big on linking those two. But my third one to that is culture. As they say, execution eats strategy for breakfast, culture eats it all for dinner, in my opinion. Like, you have to have the right people, the right team, the right setup. Otherwise, it's all worthless.
Amazing. I'm really enjoying your one-liners as well there. They're definitely going to stick in the mind after today's session. So at the end of these podcasts, we'll usually have a quick rapid fire question. So don't think too much. First thing that comes to your mind when I say, what's one piece of software that you can't live without? Can't be Sift or Xero.
One personal one, because I was doing it on the train in my commute this morning. It's called Cozi, I think. It's a to-do app. I've got 2 young children, a husband, a full-time job. Our house is a bit manic. We have a shared to-do list that me and my husband can both see, and we tick it off as we go. It's very, very simple. That's one bit of personal software. The professional one, I've been a OneNote user for notes on Microsoft for years, and there's one Notion that's finally taking over, and I'm actually transitioning. This is the first time I've ever transitioned my note taking. So yeah, I can't live without Notion at the moment.
Amazing. And then what's the best book or podcast that you've read or listened to recently?
So I've just finished a book. I struggle to switch off sometimes when I'm thinking about work to go to sleep. So I often read fiction books at nighttime that some people say are quite heavy, but they're often laced with like a romance story. So I've just finished, it's called The Woman. What's the author? Kristin Hanna. And it's about women in the Vietnamese War that were the nurses, that were the unsung heroes, that went out to war, and about their battle of coming back to the US and it not being, it was brilliant. So yeah, that's the latest book I've just finished.
Amazing. And then just lastly, what's one key takeaway that you hope the people listening today will leave with?
Tough on problems, nice on people.
Great. Love that. Kate, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to hear a bit of your insights, your background, and your sort of perspective on things. And thank you for listening to Beyond Insights today. We'll see you very soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Insights podcast. Please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to right now. And please share with any of your colleagues or friends or family members that you think might benefit from listening to this podcast. That's all from us. Until next time, see you then.